Lady Charmaine, and my guest today was sent to prison for second-degree murder at the age of 19. But today he is a writer, mentor, and motivational speaker whose story of redemption has inspired others. And he's here today to talk about his new book, Righting My Wrongs, Life, Death, and Redemption in an American Prison. Help me welcome Shaka Senghor to the show. Welcome. Congratulations again on the Oprah Winfrey Super Soul Sunday. Awesome interview, very touching.
Thank you.
And as I said in my introduction, that you were sent to prison at the age of 19 back in 1991. And the reason why your story touched me so much, Shaka, is because you and I are the same age. And I remember when I remember when I was 19 and, you know, all the things that I was doing. And I realized and this young man was being sent to prison. And, you know, at that age, you know, we think we're adults because we're 18, 19, but you were being sent to prison. And I wanted to know for you, although you were in an adult body, but it's like you were a boy being sent to prison, serving in a grown man or an adult term. And I wanted to know, what was that like for you?
Well, when I got sentenced, it was really, traumatizing just because the environment was so volatile, and there was really no outlet to deal with all the emotions that comes with losing your freedom. And it's one of the reasons that I do the work that I do today, because I never want another teenager to feel like I felt losing my freedom. And it's a scary experience, and not scary in the sense of being able to take care of yourself, but scary in the sense of not knowing how you're going to handle the rest of your life in prison.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you did 7 years in solitary confinement. And I wanted to ask you, what does that do to the human spirit? Because in there, I believe you don't have any access to the human touch. So what does that do to the human spirit?
Well, it definitely is designed to really break people down. There's nothing about it that's rehabilitative. I was fortunate that I was, really literate and was able to read books that kind of helped me deal with it. But one of the things about solitary confinement is the majority of the men that I was around had extremely severe mental illness. And unfortunately, what we're doing to people in society is we're kind of just, locking them away and not thinking about the long-term impacts it has on you as a human being. It was 23-hour lockdown, 5 days a week, 24-hour lockdown, 2 days a week. And the conditions are very, very barbaric and inhumane. And so it's designed to really break you down. And, fortunately for me, I had books to help me navigate my way through that situation.
And so you wrote this book, Righting My Wrongs. How was this book cathartic for you?
I mean, it really allowed me to deal with a lot of the issues that I dealt with growing up, from child abuse and abandonment to being a victim of gun violence myself prior to perpetrating an act of gun violence. But also to really understand how I went from being an honor roll student to, serving out my most promising years in prison. And it was very cathartic in the sense that it allowed me to process all those deep emotions, attached to not being able to adequately apologize to the victim's family, to understanding, the power of forgiveness that, was extended to me, and a grace of forgiveness that was extended to me by the victim's family. It was just a really great way to get all that out and help people understand what's happening in our country right now.
So when you're writing, because, when you're writing a book, because you wrote several, but when you're writing and you're going back to those deep, dark places, it can draw up some of those old feelings and old emotions at that moment. How did you handle those emotions when they started to arise as you was writing this book?
When I wrote Righting My Wrongs, it wasn't, I just recently had a young son, and I spent a lot of the time writing, holding him in my arms because he was an infant at the time and, needed a lot of care. And so that became kind of like my place of solace, just being a parent and being able to step away when the emotions got too raw. And being able to find joy in my child, and just understanding why it was so important to make sure I had some type of balance.
And see, growing up, you were, like you said earlier, you were a very intelligent young man. You were on the honor roll, but some life changes happened, physical abuse, and it caused you to go down the wrong path. And now looking back in hindsight, what advice would you give to a young person who's facing your past situation today?
So I always just think about the work that I've been able to do as a mentor since I've been out, and what I realize is that young people need somebody that they can trust that will really listen to them. Not necessarily talk to them, but really listen to them, understand what they're going through. You know, when I was going through the abuse in my household, I never felt like I had anybody who I can talk to that I can trust. And that's so important in order to help with the healing and help, young people process those emotions. And like, even when I got shot, I was 17 years old. I didn't have a way to deal with all of the emotional baggage that came with that. I was trying to process that stuff on my own, the paranoia, the fear, the anger, the sadness, and it ended up coming out in a very unhealthy way, which led to a tragic shooting 16 months later.
So I want you to tell us about hashtag Cut50. Tell us about that.
So hashtag Cut50 is a bipartisan organization whose goal is to help reduce the prison population using really smart and thoughtful strategies as it relates to, policymakers and different legislation that's coming through the pipeline. So we really believe that we over-incarcerate people in this country, especially those who have mental illness and young people. So we're just really trying to think about what has happened to the prison system in the last 3 or 4 decades with the war on drugs and the passing of the 1994 crime bill, which led to this crazy prison population boom. And so we believe that we're in a position now to where everybody's starting to rethink our position on tough on crime and focusing more on being smart on crime.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Well, Shaka, again, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. And I want to remind the audience to make sure you go and pick up Righting My Wrongs, Life, Death, and Redemption in an American Prison. It is a powerful read. So again, thank you so much and praise God for what he's doing in your life. And thank you so much for going back and getting some young people so they don't have to experience what you've experienced. So again, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome and have a blessed day. Bye-bye.
All right, you too.